Welcome to a Super Bloom podcast. It's your host, Candice King. We have a delicious episode for you today because we're talking about my favorite thing in the whole world, food. I love food. Love a restaurant recommendation. I have a list. I have lists not just here for Nashville, for all over. If I'm traveling and I just meet someone, I'm like, well, where's your favorite restaurant? I can sit down and talk to someone for a whole hour about restaurants around a city. Some people might find that annoying. I love it. I love it. The thing that calms me down on an airplane is to read through Food and Wine magazine. Just read it. Am I ever going to make any of those recipes? Probably not. Probably not. Do I know how to make any of those things? No. Do I know how to pronounce half of the things in Food and Wine magazine? Nope. Probably do not know how to do that either. But you know what? I'm going to read it and I'm going to dream about it and I'm going to think about it and I'm going to pretend I'm Ratatouille and everything just goes black and everything gets real sparkly and you see the little piece of cheese and the strawberry come together and it's like mind explosions over what it would taste like. That's what I do to calm down on an airplane. You know, if my kids are stressing me out, and mommy says I need some space and grace, I grab one of my cookbooks, I put on my Real Housewives, and I read recipes while I watch ladies yell at each other. You know, some people meditate. That's what I do. That's how I relax. That is my form of self-care. So I could not be more thrilled for today's discussion because I'm talking to a chef. And another thing, obviously I talk a lot about the fact that I love TV. There is a show on that is very popular, all about a restaurant and a chef. And I'm sure you know what I am alluding to. If you have not watched it, you must be living under a rock because everyone's been talking about it. Every meal I have gone to lately someone has been now hyper aware of how a restaurant runs because we all think we know how to do it from watching the show. It's kind of like if you watch a doctor show and suddenly everyone thinks that they would know how to do a surgery. They're like, yeah, I would know how to reset that bone. Yeah, I saw it a few episodes back. Suddenly we all think we know the ins and outs of how a restaurant works and how it would feel to be a chef, how it would feel to say yes, chef, or someone say to you, yes, chef. Maybe you're just saying that to each other because it feels good in the moment because we all want to be part of that community because we've been watching it on TV and we just want to know what it's like. Well, you know what? Today we're going to get a little glimpse of what it's like because I'm hanging out with Chef Jesus Diaz. Born in Caracas, Venezuela, Chef Jesus Diaz is an award-winning Latin American chef who moved to the United States in 2000. We're going to talk a little bit about what brought him here, how he started off in baseball. He wanted to be a professional baseball player and yet found himself opening his own restaurant, an Emmy Award winner, co-host of Univision's hit morning show, Despierta America. We're also going to learn in this episode that I'm not very good at speaking any Spanish. And for the record, I took French in high school. That is why. And also for the record, my French teacher was a Southern woman who did not speak French very well. So you know what? I just don't speak any language very well. As someone who travels constantly and is always keeping lists of restaurants that I cannot wait to go to, I'm even more excited about this conversation with Chef Diaz because he has a brand new show called Que Delicia, El Sabor de America, where Chef Jesus Diaz is traveling to more than 50 restaurants in search of the best Latin dishes in America, which means I'm just going to have a whole new list of places to try after our conversation. You can stream his show now, and also to stay up to date on new episodes, follow Chef Jesus at Chef Jesus, Jesus, on Instagram. And without further ado, let's dive in to my delicious conversation with Chef Jesus Diaz. Well, I'm so excited to be talking about one of my favorite things today, and that is food. We were both kind of talking a little bit about the fact that we both have young children. My kids are 3 and 7, well, almost 3. I'd like to round up for ages. It's just easier that way. And you said 6 and 8?
6 and 8. Yeah, only 2 years apart.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And while do you have kids that love to eat everything you eat? Do you just make one meal and that's it? They just love it. They're experimental in their palate because, you're a chef.
I wish it was that way, but it doesn't work that way. It does with one of them. The youngest one is, she's an eater. She loves trying new things, and she's not as scared of new flavors and stuff and textures. The older one is very picky, and she stays always eating the same. She could eat the same for years, for months. So I do get to enjoy, the little one when she tries everything I make. And the older one, as a chef, sometimes makes you feel a little weird, because you want them to try everything you make, right?
Yeah.
So you take it personal sometimes as a chef.
I'm sure you're like, I'm really good at this. People award me for this.
Yeah, you serious? You're not going to try this one? I mean, they used to sell very well at my restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, yeah, no, I've got, my youngest is very into butter noodles. I don't know. Yes. So it's a big butter noodle family over here in my house. And then the oldest one doesn't eat noodles at all. So then I have to make her own thing. If she could have her way, she would eat like a charcuterie plate every night. Like that would be her dream, is just like meats and like little crackers and bread. And then my youngest,
and that's a 7-year-old?
That's the 7-year-old. So I am constantly, and I love food. Like for me, I will plan an entire vacation around where I can get fantastic reservations. Like my first step in any vacation I plan is like, where am I going to eat? And like, that's where all my budget goes, is towards the food. Like I grew up with parents. Yes. That's my favorite thing about traveling, is like really leaning into like all like the local foods that I would never be able to try anywhere else. And my parents' rule when I was a kid was always, if I wanted to be, lucky enough to travel with them around the world, which I was lucky enough to. My first trip, I was 7 years old in Paris, and they said, you have to try whatever is put in front of you. You don't have to like it, but you have to try it.
But just try it.
But just try it.
Great way to do it. Yes.
And it's a great way to like figure. And now I've got kids where it's like a whole emotional breakdown if they have to try anything new. And I'm just like, I failed. But I love food
really
so much.
And convince them.
Yes, but I love it so much. Now, has food always been like, what has food meant to you? Like food, ever since I was a child, has meant like adventure and kind of like it was like a privilege to be able to go somewhere new and experiencing something new. It was like something fancy to me. Like that's when I think of like going out for a meal. That's what kind of was ingrained to me when I was a kid. Like what is like a food, like a sit down, like great meal for you? What was your first experience with that?
For me, I think food relates to memories, right? We as a cook, you're always trying to go to that moment, and that taste and that feeling of whenever you tried it and it felt amazing, right? Or maybe you familiarize this flavor with someone that you love and that probably is not here anymore. To me, food is more than just the taste and the ingredients. I think it's much more deeper than that, and that's how I wanted to to show my daughters that through food they can remember all those moments that they're this memories that they're making with me. It goes beyond the fact that it tastes good or my dad is a good cook, or I'm not looking for anything of that. I just want them to keep that taste and the moment, so that in the future they remember this moment. That to me is food. And when you say that you had the opportunity to travel and save your money, and now you do it, you save your money to go around good food, and you pick your places based on good restaurants and locations. That's what felt so great about the show that I just made. I felt like I went around the United States for months, 4 or 5 months, and tasted so much and so many different kind of cuisines without having to spend $1. So I traveled and I ate great, and it didn't cost me anything. I was actually
genius,
getting paid
by
for
the way.
it. So,
genius. That's
genius,
like my dream job.
right?
Someone's like, I'm going to pay you to eat
I'm
at
not trying to make
fantastic
you
places.
feel bad, but...
Yeah. You really figured it out. But it also goes back to, I love what you're saying. It is like a good meal is like a good story. And it's not necessarily like the star rating of the restaurant or, but it truly is like the love and the attention that someone's putting into it. And that's what I'm very excited to talk about your new show, because it's a wide variety of restaurants, like some that are very critically acclaimed, as well as like some more like mom and pop shops. But for you, when you were a child, like when you think of that, like that dish or just any kind of food from when you were a kid, like is there one that sticks out that like immediately brings you back? So you were born in Venezuela, yes?
Correct. That's why I'm gonna tell you it has to be the arepa. The arepa for us is like the tacos for the Mexicans, and also the smell of the coffee. For some reason, my mom used to make coffee first thing in the morning. That will be the first thing she'll make waking up, and the smell, and obviously now the taste. As a kid, I didn't drink coffee up to now that I came to the U.S. probably as a teenager, but the taste and the smell of the arepa, which is made with cornmeal and also mixed with the smell of the coffee, to me is really special. Every time I drink a cup of coffee in the morning, and every time I make myself arepas or for my girls, it takes me back, to those moments with my mother, as I said, and I picture her. She passed away a couple of years back, so that's probably why it has so much more meaning now. But that's food to me. I mean, I already knew that was a huge part of the food, like we said, the memories and the stories. But now that you notice that there's people that is not around anymore and that you can almost feel them, through food, I think that's very special.
Yeah. Is it like there were a couple traditional meals that my parents would make? There were a few meals that my mom would make specifically. I think when I think of like kind of storytelling from my childhood meals, my dad hunted a lot. So I actually just brought a group of girlfriends up. They have a cabin in Montana. And there's animals and taxidermy that are on the walls, and so all my my city gals are just sitting there like, oh wow, it's a lot of dead animals on the wall, and I was like, yeah, But for me, I grew up with that, and they were like, oh, do you know these animals? Like, where did they get them? And I was like, oh, I ate them. Like I ate all of these.
Wow.
like that's what was. I was like, I know them very well.
Did you hunt them too?
I did not hunt them. I know.
No,
I've been with my father because I feel that for me, it is important. Like I eat the animal. I like that was for me. That's what hunting was, is my dad would hunt, and then that was the whole freezer full, and if he went on fishing trips, we would eat that fish. And so it was like wild boar, and like he always had, that's where our turkey was from every Thanksgiving, it was just like you were
able to eat really, really great quality.
Yes, exactly. But
from the farm to the table.
Yes,
literally,
very fresh. For me, like that kind of wild game is a part of like the storytelling that reminds me of like really special meals with my family. But also like growing up here in the States, there's also so many things that are just like, I think back to my childhood of like kid cuisines and mac and cheese and instant this and instant that. And it's interesting as an adult that I feel like I'm part of, we're part of this generation that are trying to like, now I'm shopping organic. I'm being more mindful of what my kids snack on, that I maybe like, to no fault of my parents, it was just generationally like a different time, but like that wasn't really considered. And it's been interesting to think back of so many like nostalgic foods that I remember as a kid that are just so like commercialized, like American prepackaged meals. And so to hear you talk about like the smell of the coffee and that like and these like made, cornmeal like cakes and I just am like, oh, that sounds amazing. That is not, was that you moved to the States when you were in your teens? Like, obviously, that's going to be a very big culture shock difference, I would assume. But was it, as far as food? I've heard so many people, even that move in from like people I've known from London, who are still adjusting to, the food here in the States, because we have eaten very differently, for better or worse.
Luckily, I moved. I've always lived in Miami, in South Florida, and it's very close to Venezuela. It's a 2.5, 3 hour flight, which is not bad. There were a lot of Latin Americans and maybe not as much Venezuelans as there is now, but you could find most of the ingredients. What shocked me in the beginning was that my first job was at an IHOP. So it was American breakfast, right? It was it had nothing to do with arepas. So it did in the beginning shock me a little bit, the difference between the ingredients and the food. I was switching my arepas, my empanadas, and the food that my mom will make for us for pancakes and French toast, and omelets, which are delicious, but it was very different from what I was used to. So yeah, I had to, and that's what I'm sure it pushed me to learn how to cook, because mom was not around. When I came over to the US, it was on my own with my brother, and my parents came 3-4 years later. So I was basically forced to make my own food, as a 17-year-old going to high school.
How old was your brother at the time?
He's 7 years older than me, but a horrible cook. So, so, so he was around 23 years old, no clue of what, how to make a meal. So we had to both learn a little bit. He went, he took another path. He never worked in the kitchen. So me working at a restaurant for many years, I started as a dishwasher, but I ended up in the kitchen mostly because it was, the position that will pay me more. So that combination between my job and the fact that my mom wasn't around, I think it made me a cook from my early age.
Well, you also would go on to, I mean, just reading about you, you learned a lot about the industry, the restaurant industry, specifically from your time at IHOP, which I think is really incredible because, yeah, it's a pretty clear blueprint of, it's a very established place here in America. But for you,
very
when you
corporate, yeah.
Yes, very corporate. But for you, what was your, what did you want to be when you grew up?
No, I grew up dreaming about being a baseball player. So I played baseball my whole life since I was 7 years old. The first times that I came to the US, being probably 11, 12 years old, I used to come for tournaments. And that's what brought me pretty much to the US. Even when I was 17 years old, I was dreaming of just staying and playing professional baseball. I never thought of becoming a chef or working at a restaurant. For me, it was just baseball. I did 2 years of high school, and then I got a scholarship to go to college. While I was going to school and practicing and all that, I needed it to work. And it was always around food. I was always at a restaurant. Then I worked for a distribution company for over 10 years. And that showed me the other side of the business, the cost of the food and, the strategics behind the restaurant or hotels to build the menu and to catch the customers with great food. That's how I started learning everything about restaurants, and that's why I decided to open my own place, my own business.
I feel like it's such a very dreamy idea that a lot of people will just kind of be like, oh, it'd be so fun to open up a restaurant. It'd be so much fun.
I heard that many times.
I'm sure you have.
Not fun at all.
Yeah. I have a few friends who are in the restaurant industry by way of owning restaurants, and they're I've seen them relaxed. Eventually, they become relaxed, but it is
right.
but it's all what an incredible opportunity to see the structure of what it takes for a restaurant to really work, because I think that that's what gets lost on a lot of people. Is it's just you just picture this fun place where people go and have a cocktail or a glass of wine and a great meal, and everyone's just thrilled to be there. Have you watched? I'm sure everyone has asked you about that. Yes. I feel like that's finally clued people in on there's a whole other
side of the story.
Other side of the story. And so for you, when you were seeing the other side of the story, I think it takes a really, unique. It takes obviously you have to love food. You have to be attracted to the industry of a restaurant if you're going to open your own. But what was there a defining moment that made you go I'm in? I not only do I want to be a chef, but I want to own my own restaurant. And also those are two very different experiences within the industry. So to do both of them, there had to be something that just really drew you in.
Totally. I mean, I always saw it like a great business, once I understood, the numbers, right? And how everything works when you have the buying power, and then you have the knowledge to create, dishes or drinks menus. I think you start to understanding that there's an opportunity as a business, right? but it takes a lot. I mean, and mostly when you don't have the resources, when you don't have an investor, or when you want to do everything on your own. In my case, it was a very small place, 12 tables. I did from, get my permits with the city, and passing all the inspections to be able to open, and then create the menu, and then bring the people in. And I knew pretty much a little bit of everything, and that's when I noticed, the purpose of those early jobs that I had. I was able to wash the dishes when the dishwasher didn't come. I was able to serve tables when the server was not there, and obviously, cook when my chefs weren't around. So I felt that I had all the tools to do it. I think I lasted so long because because it was a small place, and because I was able to do pretty much everything when when you're not selling as much as you want to sell. So I felt ready and prepared, and I wanted to make it my business. But it is very demanding. You have no hours. You don't have a schedule. You spend a lot of time away from your family. You have to dedicate long hours to the business, and be present. With food, you have to be present. There's so many little details that could go other way if you're not on top of it, from the rotation of the food, when the orders arrive, and mostly because my concept and the cuisine that I love is sushi with Peruvian, which is Nikkei cuisine. It's a combination of Peruvian food with Japanese. So there's a lot of raw food, and then fish, and you have to keep the rotation temperatures very detailed, so that you don't start losing and throwing things away and wasting more money.
It's interesting because it is it's this level of perfectionism, this heightened, quick level of perfectionism that I'm assuming anyone in your position is putting on yourself, and that hopefully the team that you've built around you is also expecting of themselves, but also it's just there to be consumed and enjoyed by someone else. Have you thought about that a lot in in your career? I mean, I think about that just as a mother, or for me, when I cook, I love to cook. I'm a terrible cook. I love to cook. My dream day.
What about the noodles? Did you make those good noodles?
Oh, I mean, I'll crush some butter noodles. No, my dream day is is to go and read a cookbook, pick out 3 recipes, spend way too long at the grocery store, really take my time slicing and dicing, and just spend a whole day cooking for someone else to enjoy it, and then I enjoy it as well. But I get that feeling of watching someone really, really enjoy it. But I can't even imagine what that's like, when you're creating this environment for people to come and enjoy a meal, but just creating a piece of art that someone's just going to consume and walk away with. It's so quick.
You're right, and yes, and that's why that's one of the reasons why I fell in love with this type of cuisine, because obviously I worked in hot kitchens full of stress and pressure and screaming. But once I learned from, those Japanese Asian clients that I had, the way they would get prepared and the way they will work their shifts and serve people, it's a totally different ambience, and rhythm. In this type of cuisine, you're part of front of the house. Pretty much you get to enjoy the people. You get to enjoy the vibe and see the people. You can watch their faces while they're eating and see the reaction, and that to me is what it's a payback for a chef. Like you said, you want to see people enjoy what you made and make a nice comment. And I found that in this type of cuisine, besides being in the back where nobody sees you and you're just going crazy trying to make this happen. In this type of cuisine, you can take your time, you enjoy the ambience, you're part of that as well. So yeah, I think that's the most exciting thing about everything, and you forget about, everything else that you did to be there and to have your business and to have your menu and your staff. And once you see the people trying your food and you see that they are satisfied and thankful to you, is priceless.
Where have you traveled? I'm sure I didn't even consider the idea of not only different cuisines, but the different temperament in kitchen, and the way that how cooking a cuisine can also affect like the emotions and the heightened emotions or more relaxed tempo of how you'd be preparing it just around the world. Like for you, is there somewhere that you've traveled or a kitchen that you've been to that like surprised you the most? I mean, you were mentioning Japan, but
Yes, but I'll tell you, and probably has to do with many things, maybe language, culture. But I think the best trip that I made was to Peru. Peru has so much Asian influence, but you get to connect more with their people. In my case, because they're Latin, and they speak my language. Everything that they have to offer as a country in the gastronomy, or the resources that they have, so many different peppers and potatoes and things to work with that not other countries have. I think that's what makes them special. I was able to visit the restaurant that right now is the number one in the world. It's called Central. And this guy, he goes around Peru, and depending on the different altitudes and areas of his country, of the cities, it could be from the mountains or maybe from a lake, but he keeps collecting with his sister, different ingredients that maybe nobody uses in a plate, but he finds a way to translate that to a dish. And he gives you the whole story and where it comes from and the temperatures and the textures. And I understood why he's number one in the world, because it's much more than just food and cooking. And he besides that, his kitchen is like a lab,
Mm-hmm, yeah.
and they make they make food and take it to a totally different level.
Why did you want to travel around the U.S. specifically to look at different Latin American restaurants? Why were you here for your new show?
Because, my mission was to showcase and demonstrate, the impact that we as Latin Americans have in cuisine, mostly in the United States, because, this is where we all come for a better life, for better opportunities. I remember Anthony Bourdain, not longer with us, but he in one of his shows, he said that there wouldn't be any restaurants in New York if it wasn't for Mexicans. That thanks to Mexicans, we have restaurants in New York. And I was able to experience that around the United States, and maybe not only New York, I'll say, and not only Mexicans, but when you walk through the back of a kitchen, you see the dishwasher, the lady cleaning the floors, or the guy helping the chef, to do the prep. 95% of the times, it's a Latin people. It's a Latin American person, and someone that came to the U.S. probably not thinking or planning on working on a restaurant, but it was the opportunity that they got. And it's so amazing how they took that opportunity and translated it to an opportunity to have a business, to bring the rest of their family over, to make their dreams come true, and find a way to even become wealthy. And from being dishwashers or cooks or helpers, they now own more than 3, 4, 5 restaurants. It's very amazing, and I could connect with them so well because that was part of my story. My restaurant didn't make me rich, but it gave me the opportunity to be in television, which is now my dream job. And I wanted to share that joy with all these people that I know is working really hard. It's such a hard business, and I know how much we have to offer. The taste wise and all the ideas that we bring from our countries. It's very passionate.
Well, it makes sense why you were also enjoyed being front of house or like cooking, where you could actually see the people, and creating your dishes where you could actually see people coming in to enjoy them, because you have had a very obviously Emmy Award winning career on television on top of just dancing your way into
Oh, wow.
the hearts of so many. I mean, just talented all over the place. But
Look who's talking.
Oh yeah, I mean,
You've done it all.
I don't know about that.
Singing too. I love music, and I saw you singing. I said, "Wow, she also sings."
Oh, this was a different time, different life. My children just get the benefits of that now. But But it is incredible the opportunities that you've obviously had, but that you bring it all, like the story comes back to like the food and the dishes that you create. And that's why I love so much that like your new show, and I'm so sorry if I'm going to, I cannot pronounce anything. It is very embarrassing.
Come on,
okay,
give it a try.
Here we go. Que delicia. Delicia. Nope. Did I? Yes, I got two thumbs.
Yes.
Delicia. Jeez Louise. El Sabor
Delicia,
de America.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. Golly.
A+.
Thank you. Yeah, no, even when I have auditions, they're like, can you do a British accent? I'm like, from Kentucky? Is she British from Kentucky? Because I can do that. I can do a Southern accent. That's about it. And I do not speak English very good. For you, I'm just so glad that what a beautiful intersection of the two worlds that you've, been doing so wonderfully. It must be really wonderful to see them all come together. So give us a little bit of idea of some of the cities that you go to. Is there a restaurant that just kind of completely surprised you where you're like, oh, this is just another day on the job where I get to eat delicious food, whatever. And then by the end of it, you're like, well, I'm never going to forget today ever. This has impacted me.
I will never forget this project, that's for sure. I mean, I was able to go to 13 different cities around the United States. We went to Houston and Dallas, and then we went to the West Coast and did San Diego, Long Beach, and Los Angeles. And then we did Orlando, Miami, and up to New York, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. And it was amazing. My mission was to showcase, these amazing places, from Michelin stars and James Beard Awards winners to just a grandmother who keeps cooking her own recipes to pass it along to her children's or grandchildren's. And as I said, they were able to to build a business to be able to grow and make their family better. So there's a little bit of everything, nothing better than the other. I mean, that to me, the taste was there. I was able to, I tasted the best tacos I have ever had in a food truck in the middle of a parking lot in Los Angeles. Nothing to do with a Michelin star winner. But I was also able to taste in Brooklyn, New York, a mother and a son who got together and built a restaurant, and they did get a Michelin star,
Wow.
So pretty much, great stories of success, dreams that came true. And for me to experience that is a way to remind myself, how lucky I've been, to get a recognition out of all the work that I did as a chef, as a restaurant owner, and even also as a baseball player, because I wasn't able to make it to the major leagues, but I was able to stay in the United States because of baseball. If it wasn't because of that, probably my family wouldn't be here in the United States. The first idea for me was to come here and try to make my dream come true with different plans. But I was able to stay, and now I understand that was the mission of the sport at the moment, and the mission of my restaurant at the moment was to bring me to television, probably. So you start understanding now in the present what why were you doing that in the past.
It sounds like you also had a very supportive family who was encouraging of you and your dreams of becoming a baseball player. Is there? Yeah, I feel like that's such a beautiful thing to be, especially in adulthood, when even the running joke of like you can always make a plan, but like whoever you believe, whether it's God or the universe, there's always a different plan. Like you can plan all you want, but or both.
Yes.
Oprah, whoever's in charge. But there's always a
Just
different plan.
Light the candle and make the wish.
Exactly. But it is a really beautiful thing. Like I have found at this point, in the later half of my 30s, looking back and just really having a deeper appreciation of the support of the times where my parents like just supported me being able to dream, and especially right now, I think a lot about this generation of kids where it's like trying to kind of navigate this world of social media and like coming off of COVID and like, where it used to be you go and you go to college and immediately it means that you like have opportunity in the world. And, where it's just a different landscape right now. And how anytime I get asked by a young person, like, hey, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life. Any advice? And I'm just like, do that. You're not supposed to necessarily know what you're supposed to do the rest of your life, but dream and lean into it. And even if that doesn't pan out, even if that door is not opening, look around, because I'm sure there's a window, or there's another door, or there's a whole other house you can go to that's fantastic, but it is a beautiful thing. Is there anything, and just speaking on your mother or your time as a child, that makes you think oh, this was this beautiful, inciting moment that allowed me to kind of dream and continue? Because obviously that's continued in your career. Every time you don't just end up on television. You don't just end up, having someone hand you an Emmy. You don't just end up, having these opportunities. You have to work for them, but you also have to dream big enough to imagine yourself there.
Absolutely. And I think we never dream big enough. We don't even know how big the results could be. And that's a great advice that you're giving, just be and enjoy, even though things are not coming out as you probably planned. There's so many other opportunities that you don't even know about, that are going to open, or that are going to be presented to you just by having a good attitude, and by taking the moment in, and learning as much as you can. As I said, obviously, when I was 17 years old washing dishes, I had have all my group of friends, and even a girlfriend back in my country that I left just because I wanted to play baseball. And when I knew that that I was not going to get to that, I was not going to get to my dream, I knew that it was the right decision. Right after, when my parents came over, Venezuela got very bad. The country as a country got very critical. And that's when I understood, why I missed all those years of fun and graduating with my group of friends, or staying with that girlfriend that I had, or why I missed my family so much throughout all those years. I understood that was the plan, of God, or as you said, whomever your God is. It showed me that, that was the payback, or the plan that they had for me. Same thing with the restaurants. I worked so hard for so many years, but I had the support of my family, and that's something that we see in the show and all these places that I visited. Every business and every restaurant is either the brothers, or the mother and the daughter, or the grandmother and the grandchildren, all supporting each other to make it happen. They don't even know if they're going to have 3-4 locations, or if they're going to get a Michelin stars in a couple of years. They're just working hard together. And I think the attitude and being grateful for what the opportunities that you're getting, no matter how small or big they are, it's what makes you reach the goal at the end. Maybe it's not the goal that you were planning to reach, but you're gonna get to something special.
In order for a kitchen to run successfully, in order for a restaurant to run successfully, you have to be a team. You have to be a family. What is something that you've learned in your experience of being part of those teams and those families, and also being kind of the coach of those teams and the patriarch of those families, that has stuck with you in your day-to-day life, whether it's your own family or just kind of how you walk through the world?
Basically that you have to be a team player. There are tough moments and tough days where things are not coming out as you planned, but you have to understand that you're part of a team. It's not on your own that you're doing this. Maybe your section or your station is working perfectly, but you see the guy next to you that is having a hard time. Maybe things are not coming out as he would love to, but you give that hand and you help, because at the end of the day, in the case of a restaurant, the review is going to be overall. They're going to review the whole thing. They're going to review the meal. They're going to review you as a team. And I think even playing a sport, a team sport, even taught me that. That the importance of being there for your teammates when they're not having a good day, or they're not getting things how they would love to. And there are going to be days where you're not getting that also, and then you get the help from your teammate or your coworker. It's very important to understand that that you cannot be selfish in a business like this at all.
Okay, if you could fly tomorrow to one of the restaurants that you went to on your show and have one meal, where would you go?
Oh, wow. What a tough question. I hope can you cut this? Don't record this one because you're going to get me in trouble.
No, I have to. I need to put it on my list.
Oh, there's a place in Houston that we tried. It's called Tatemo. It's a Mexican place, a young chef. The day we were recording, they got the news that they were being nominated for the James Beard Award as a new restaurant. They were there for less than 2 years. It's a very small place. I think it was 15 seats. And this guy just specialized in corn. And that was his, that was his mission. He will get different types of corn, different colors, textures, types from different places. And he will make tortillas from scratch. And there, it's a huge process. You buy them at the store and you think it's just, that's this round thing that is with ground corn and they put it there together and they make a tortilla for you. But there's a process of, I think it's called calcification, where you take, part of the components so that you can digest the corn. So he does even that from scratch, and he mixed it with different ingredients to make the taste. And some are sweet and salty, but he specialized in that. And he has an Asian background, so he makes these combinations where he does like a little tempura fish with a yuzu crema. And he combines all these things on a maybe pink tortilla, and the flavors are amazing. So I think you should try that one when you go to Dallas.
Done. Is it Houston or Dallas?
It is Houston. I'm sorry.
Houston.
Yes, Houston.
Okay, all good.
Houston,
all
Texas.
good. I was like, wait, Dallas? There's another. Okay, no, Houston. Okay,
Houston.
I'm marking it down. Well, I'm so excited to continue I'm very excited for this show. I'm excited to have a whole new list of restaurants to watch. Also, I just have to know, like, even for me going out and like, having this whole new perspective on the restaurant industry, and I know because of a television show, but this show, I feel like this has been, every time I've gone out to dinner, it gets brought up once, but how often have people just now started saying like, yes, chef to you? And like so often, is there like a whole, I mean, here in Nashville, there are yes, chef hats that people are wearing. It is like a hot time to be a chef right now, or to have any.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I think
you're like,
it
yeah,
feels great. I think that has changed a little bit. We had this concept of a chef being, this tough guy, sometimes even mean with an attitude. But I think that's been changing. Now you see this, skinny guys, young like me, maybe not so strong and mean, because you're trying to also offer an experience. And if you want to offer that experience where people feels good and love, then you cannot have that attitude all the time. So that yes, chef comes from that time where you were almost scared of not answering to your boss, to your executive chef. But that has changed. And I know this show is going to help you also practice your Spanish.
Yes.
I know you're gonna watch all those episodes, and we're gonna come back to a conversation, and you're gonna be fluent.
I'll be ready.
And plus, you're going to get some new ideas and places where you can go and enjoy great food and great stories. They're going to treat you very well with a lot of love.
Oh, I can't wait. I know, hearing about the tortillas, I mean, at the start of 2020, may have indulged in a few glasses of wine, as a few of us did. And may have been on the internet looking at lists of kitchen items I didn't know I needed. And may have not necessarily recalled ordering a tortilla press, but I did. And instead of
do you know how to use it?
Absolutely not. But I was determined to learn. And I got my masa flour, and I got but I did, and I was and I loved it, and I was like, oh, this is great, this is fantastic. So yes, I have a lot to learn. It's still in storage as I'm moving, but so now, I'll just have to go learn I'll get some tortilla pressing tips from a professional. But I want to close out our conversation with just like 5-question cool down I like to ask all my guests before I let you go. So, Jesus, can you tell me something that you like? Just the first thing that pops into your head.
That I like, the beach. I love the beach.
Something that you know.
Something that I know. I know about sports.
All of them?
Most of them. Let's say I know about baseball. So I don't sound that cocky.
Do you have a fantasy football team?
I don't. I do have a baseball, fantasy baseball team.
It's always one. It's always one. I might as well have a fantasy Real Housewives team at this point. So I totally get it. I respect it. What is something that you hate?
I hate, how do you translate this? Is unfairness or injustice? Is that how you say it? When things are not, when things are not fair or for everybody, when things are, when you know that you're doing wrong, but then, people get their way out.
What would you say without feeling the need to translate it? How would you say it in Spanish?
Injusticia. Injustice, maybe? Injusticia.
What is something that you love that is not your family or friends or loved ones, but just something that you personally love for you?
That I love for me? Food. Could it be food?
Yeah, of course it can be food. Have you had any good food yet today?
Of course, every day. I make my own breakfast, and I love breakfast. It has to be, on point. I really, take my time for that.
And what is a quirky little fact about you?
Wow, quirky little fact.
Besides being a dance champion.
Okay, that's a good one.
My kids and I watched Dancing with the Stars here. We literally just watched it back to back these last 2 nights. So
nice.
I'm like, that is very impressive.
It is. And even more when you're not a huge dancer. I used to dance and, reunions, basic stuff. But it took some time and dedication to be able to prepare for those dances, for those choreographies. It was hard. Something quirky about me, I will say that I laugh easily, that I laugh a lot, I guess. Can look quirky
That's a
sometimes.
Good quality. It's so quirky. So quirky.
It is.
Well, it has been a joy. Thank you so much, Jesus. It's so lovely to meet you. I'm very, very excited for you and your show.
I really appreciate it, Candice. Thank you for your time, for inviting me to your podcast. I know how big you are, and I really, appreciate that you take the time for me to, express myself and show you what we just did in the show. I hope you enjoy it. And I hope we can repeat this conversation at some point after you watch the episodes.
Yeah.
And I'm here for you with any questions about the tortilla press or anything about
Thank
food.
you.
Actually,
I might DM you a few. So
anytime.
Be on the lookout. But it's so lovely to meet you. I hope our paths cross in real life at some point. A Super Bloom podcast is hosted by me, Candice King, produced by Melissa D. Montz and Diamond Imprint Productions, edited by Diane Kang, post-production sound by Coco Lawrence, and advertising partnership with Acast.